It's actually, start of the window. I'm trying to think when I said it. It would have been either start of the window or just before the window. I can't remember which it was. But I said the priorities for Tottenham were going to be a right wing back and an attacker. So the attacker looks like that will be sorted within the next 24 hours, you'd hope, because as I film this, Arnaut Danjuma is going through his medical at Hotspur Way. I mean, it's the medicals have so many different parts to it that it's expected to kind of go on into the night. So it may be that when this is actually eventually publishes, because YouTube does take its time to upload stuff, so it might be a little while. So it may be completed by the time this is done. But it was definitely underway and had been since it was early evening, late afternoon. It kicked it off at Hotspur Way. So, if you're not aware who Arnaut Danjuma is, Villarreal attacker. He was at Bournemouth a few seasons back. He had a terrific season last season. I'm going to talk about all his stats in a little mo. The reason I say I absolutely feel sorry for Everton, and it's because this comes from a place of experience with Tottenham. We've seen deals that were almost done get absolutely snatched away, and this is what's happened to Everton, so I've got masses of sympathy for them. It sounds like the deal was almost pretty much done for them. I think it was a straight loan deal. He'd done his medical. I think most of the stuff had been signed. I think, from what I understand from some people, that maybe he'd even done the media stuff for them. But I can't confirm that's definitely true or not. But it certainly sounds like everything had been done and dusted. It was just a case of registering him. And suddenly, here he is at Tottenham Hotspur doing his medical. It's not a nice side to the game, but unfortunately, it is what happens, you know. Obviously, it's going to be the player's right to pick where he wants to go. It is a really interesting deal. If I'm going to purely look at it just for a second from the player's perspective, I can understand Everton are a bit of a mess right now. I think, you know, I know a lot of Everton fans, especially Guesty. People know I do the podcast Golden Guest Talk Tottenham with Guesty. And he will be the first to admit that Everton are a bit of a mess right now. Obviously, no manager right now either. Languishing down the bottom of the league, or at the bottom kind of lower reaches of the league. And I suppose you look at Spurs and you think, you know, chance to work with Antonio Conte, Champions League football as well coming up next month. You know, they've got a realistic chance if they push on from last night to get back in the top four. And, you know, potentially, you know, something more comes of what is expected to definitely initially be a loan transfer. So I get that side. But I also, from a playing point of view, I would have thought Danjuma Everton would get quite a lot of game time. And it also sounds like Anthony Gordon may be heading off potentially to Newcastle, which means that Danjuma, if you're not aware, plays either on the left or he can play up front. Or he can actually play as like a support striker. That's the best way to put it. Support striker is the best way. Let's stick with that. So I think he would have got a lot of game time at Everton. Whereas at Spurs, there's a lot of competition for him. Especially on that left, you've got Sonny and Richarlison both there. Perisic can play there as well. Through the middle, of course, you have the club record goal scorer, joint record goal scorer, Harry Kane. You know, there's a lot of people that he's got to try and leapfrog over in the pecking order. Minutes are going to be tough for him. I actually think it's probably a better deal for Spurs than it is for the player, because I think as a squad option, you know, we're going to talk about some of the stuff he's done, and I do think as a squad option, he'll be a very handy person to be able to turn to, whether it's to put straight in the lineup for various players or whether it's from the bench to change games. You know, he's big and strong, and he's got an eye for goal as well. So, yeah, it's. I do think it makes more sense from Tottenham's side than maybe it does for the player. But hey, that's not my decision to you know, that's him and his agent. That's down to them, I guess, and working out what's best for them. So, some of these stats. Scored this season 6 goals in 17 games. It hasn't been quite as good a season for him as last year. Last season he scored 6 goals in 11 Champions League games alone. and he scored 10 goals in the Liga in 23 matches, so 16 in 24. Obviously, Villarreal reached the semi-finals, and they had a cracking season, and he had a really good Champions League run as well. So he's got a lot of experience now in the Champions League as well, which is another... Conte's always talking about experience, so he certainly has that. He turns 26 on transfer deadline day, I think January 31st. So he's not a young player at all. Yeah. The other thing with Danjuma, he does also, like I say, play for Bournemouth, so he's got experience of English football. He went there from Club Brugge. He was quite young, obviously. Premier League, I think it's 14 games without scoring a goal. However, when they went down, Bournemouth, he was pretty good for them in the Championship. I've got his numbers here. 17 goals he scored in the Championship for them in 35 matches. Helped them reach the playoffs. I think he even scored a couple in the playoff semi-final as well, but they obviously didn't get through, did they? On that occasion, I'm trying to remember now. I don't think they did. So English experience, knows the physicality of the games, had a couple of seasons in England before, so it's not going to become a shock to him. There's less adaptation time. It's very much able to play now player, I would say. Is it the most exciting transfer in the world? No, I don't believe it is. But we don't really know. I mean, if he shows the form he did last season for Villarreal, then he could end up being a very clever, purchase loan. At the moment, it looks it's going to be a loan either way. At the moment, as I'm filming this, and this could all change, but at the moment as I'm filming this, the suggestion is that there could be an option to buy inserted as well. What I would say with these loan deals, we've had a few in the last couple of years where there's been an option included until the very last moment, and when the terms are finalised, the option dropped out. So it's one of those that if there's any aggregators desperate to chuck out bits and pieces, it's probably not worth it. Because, like I say, what I'm told is there's an expectation there is going to be one, but that's absolutely no guarantee that when that deal is announced that it ends up being in there. It's really not. So, is he mostly excited? Is he the most exciting transfer ever? Probably not. Is he one who instantly commands a starting spot in the team? Probably not. Could it be a clever move for the rest of the season, and then potentially if he plays well and that option does stay in there, or is it finally agreed on at the end, then it could be something that becomes a clever move. From what I understand, if the option is in there, it's probably going to be a bit less than some of the numbers that I've seen put out there so far. So yeah, could be a clever deal. And for Conte, it's another. He doesn't have to look at that bench and either have no attackers on there, or Brian Hill, who we all know is hopefully going to be a terrific player. But I think, let's be honest, Antonio Conte looks at him and sees small child. I think that's essentially what he does. I think he looks at him and goes, "Who's that small child on the bench? Oh, it's Brian Hill." I think I don't know why I did that voice. That's absolutely not what he sounds like. But I might be wrong. But that's the impression I get. He just looks across and goes, "Oh, I'm going to put the small child on now." When we know he's so much more than that, Brian Hill. But I think having a player, 26-year-old, plenty of experience, he's a big lad, Danjuma, as well. He's not going to be kind of knocked around or off the ball. I think just for someone like Conte, that's a bit more comforting in a weird way. So yeah, we shall see. We shall see with Danjuma. But, is another option. I should point out that because I'm working Saturday and Sunday, because I'm going up to Preston and I've got to come back on the train the next day, so I'm going to be working through the day, I do actually have tomorrow and Thursday off. So, you know the rule that Spurs seem to announce signings on my days off. I'd be pretty shocked if that didn't happen in the next couple of days, but it's Tottenham.